So what's up, Pat? It's been a little while since we've chatted. You did a podcast with me and Kyle like I don't know, a month ago, a couple weeks ago. How you been?
I've been doing pretty well. I'm still on the full-time job hunt, but that's a process like we talked about earlier. And yeah, I mean, other than that, things are going pretty well. In good health and just living life.
Nice, nice. I don't know if it's working on one of my feeds, but it's working on the other one, so I think we're good. But yeah, no, that's cool. So yeah, we're watching the World Series. How do you feel about that matchup?
Well, I got to tell you, like, this is kind of an ideal matchup in my opinion
Hmm.
because I know a lot of people hate the Astros, and I'll never look at them the same way again after 2017. But at the same time, they've kind of gone out and proven, like, even without garbage cans and cheating and whatnot, like, they still have so much talent up and down their lineup, and they're well managed. I'll give Dusty Baker that. And
Hmm.
the Atlanta Braves, that was the team I wanted coming out of the National League because I didn't really want to root for LA because I'm just kind of tired of them. And I
Hmm.
wasn't going to root for the Brewers or the Cardinals because they're the Cubs' biggest rivals. And while the Astros wouldn't have been my first choice out of the AL, you know, I'm seeing of Yankees Boston all the time. So, you know what? I think as a Cubs fan, this is a fine matchup. You get to see Jock Peterson play. He wasn't a Cub for long, but I liked him. And
Yeah.
unlike other Cubs fans, I don't hold that much grudge against Dusty Baker. Not saying he's absolved of anything, but uh, I don't hate him. I don't hate Dusty Baker.
Yeah, right. I don't hate him either. Yeah, I have no reason to hate him. I mean, even like he's it's not like he wanted 2003 to happen the way it did. It's kind of
No, no.
stupid, honestly, to even have that, especially after 2016. It's kind of like I'm not gonna hold that against Baker at this point, you know?
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because I didn't feel this way for the longest time. Like I had a lot of resentment against Dusty for the longest time, but as time went on and things changed, it just kind of faded away. And to be honest with you, I think when that changed for me personally was in 2017. I was so on the let's beat Dusty train when the Cubs were in the NLDS against the Nationals. And
Yeah.
then they won, and I'm like, oh yeah, we beat Dusty. And then I saw Dusty's post game presser. He looked so down and defeated. And you go back and you watch the way that series unfolded. That team failed Dusty. And I'm like, I kind of feel bad for this guy. Like, he didn't, you can look at all the wrongs he did with Mark Pryor and Kerry Wood. And, frankly, the Kerry Wood issues went back to Jim Riggleman. It wasn't just Dusty Baker for him, it was more Dusty Baker for Mark Pryor. But, even so, like you said, it's not like he was maliciously doing that, maliciously trying to ruin Kerry Wood or Mark Pryor. And then you
Mhm.
just saw how his team just flat out failed him in 2017 with the Nationals with bad play, big mistakes. I just kind of felt bad for him at that point, and so now I don't hate him, and I wouldn't hate to see him win a ring, even though I am kind of rooting for Atlanta more because I want to see Freddie
Yeah.
Freeman win it.
Yeah, I'm pulling for the Braves. I had them against the LA Dodgers in the NLCS. I kind of thought LA. I mean, I kind of thought they could win. I thought that the LA Dodgers were obviously the favorite, or the easy pick. But I don't know. I think what happened is kind of what I was kind of wondering would happen, if they would just be tired, or if the Braves were just, maybe it was just kind of their year. Things were just going to go their way. Now we'll see against the Astros, because Houston's going to be tough, but I think at this point, wouldn't really surprise me either way.
Well, you look at the Dodgers and you watch each matchup in the NLCS and even in the division series too. You saw on multiple occasions, oh, we're having a bullpen day. Oh, we're having a bullpen day. And it's like, after so many bullpen days, how can you keep doing that and then staying fresh?
Yeah.
Because, yeah, you can hit, but you got to pitch too. And it just felt like a recipe for kind of, you know, not lasting nearly as long, especially with Kershaw out. I mean, you look at the circumstances, I thought, okay, on paper, LA is like the stacked team. I mean, let's face it, the past few years and probably for the next few years, LA is going to be at least the top three favorites to go to the World Series, right? I mean, that's just how loaded they are. But
Yeah.
considering the circumstances when, Trevor Bauer is out with the legal stuff, and when you have multiple bullpen days because you don't have Kershaw, that's going to catch up to you eventually. And what's amazing about the Braves is that they kind of remind me of the Nationals a few years ago where they looked dead in the water midseason.
Yeah.
And then here they are without Acuna. That's the big
Yeah.
thing. They don't have Acuna, and they went on this spectacular run, and now they're in the World Series.
Yeah, Atlanta just kind of was the best team of a mediocre division, but now they're the best team in the National League. And, it's cool seeing Jock having the opportunity to win another World Series. He had it last year. He's in his third now. He's using Rizzo's bat. He's got the what is it? I just saw an article how he and Rizzo talked about doing dyeing their hair blonde. So then he did that, and that kind of caught on. So cool to see Jock Peterson having a chance to be a big hero again. And you mentioned some of the names. I know Acuna's out, but Freddie Freeman, easy to root for. So yeah, it should be a fun series. And what do you think about the fact that the Astros are kind of that villain? Obviously, 2017, this cheating scandal, you know, all that stuff.
When I look at the Astros, I see a team that kind of embraces being that villain. Like they use that hate as motivation. We
Yeah.
saw it in the White Sox division series. Former
Hmm.
Cub, White Sox, Ryan DePera, he brings up the cheating again in a presser and says, they didn't have the swings and misses they did while they were at home versus here in Chicago.
Yeah.
And the Astros players just went out and said, you know what, we're going to use that as motivation and we're going to beat your brains in. And they did. I mean, if you watch what the Astros did to the White Sox, and the reason I'm bringing up the White Sox is because despite some of their noticeable flaws in the regular season, I thought that team had enough talent to overcome in the
Mm.
postseason, especially we saw how good that pitching could be the White Sox had with Lance Lynn and Carlos Rodon and Lucas Giolito and their closer Liam Hendricks. And the reason I'm bringing up this is because you saw how good that White Sox pitching staff was, but look
Yeah.
what the Astros offense did to them. I mean, they beat them in the dirt. They put the ball in play every time they needed to. The Astros are the most well-balanced offense I've ever watched. If they need to shorten up and hit a single, they'll shorten up and hit a single. If they want to pull out the driver at the right time with the right pitch and hit a home run, they execute. We watched the Cubs all these years, boom or bust. They could hit the long ball, they could walk, but they had a lot of holes in their swing. They don't have holes in their swing. You can hit for power and hit for average, and that is what the Astros do. And I think it goes to show right then and there that despite, the whole philosophy of launch angle and all that stuff, as cool and significant as it is, there's still that value of just shortening up and putting the ball in play. The Astros just prove that.
Yeah. Exactly. With the White Sox, I didn't really give them much of a I didn't really give them a chance against the Astros after what Houston did to them in the regular season. I kind of thought, I think the Astros are going to take this series, and they did. And what was it? Game 3, right? It was pretty insane with the back and forth that was.
Yes. Yeah, that was game 3 in Chicago. And that was the game that was what I was kind of expecting from the Sox because they got a lot of firepower too.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'll say this about the White Sox too. I think Luis Robert might be the next top star in this game. I really do.
Oh, yeah.
That guy is stupid. I've never seen skills like that before. But you know what? Robert hit. He didn't hit for power, but he hit. But a lot of those other guys in the White Sox lineup were neutralized by the Astros pitching. And the Astros pitching, I thought, was going to be kind of the weakness for them. Not saying they didn't have any good pitchers, but I just thought, man, if you compare the White Sox pitching to the Astros pitching, I thought the White Sox, hands down, had the better pitching. But not one of those starters on the White Sox put together a good or even mediocre performance. They were all subpar or bad.
Yeah, and yeah, it just kind of calls into not question, but like I guess I'm thinking about the Astros and how good they are, and it's like they didn't need to cheat to do what they did in
No.
17, and it's interesting how they lose guys like George Springer, Verlander's out, but more or less this team is just as good, and Keuchel's with the White Sox, but new manager in Baker, new GM, and here they are again.
Yeah, and they've made what, 5 straight ALCS appearances,
Yep.
and now they're on their third pennant. I mean, remember how close they were to winning in 2019, and then in Game 7, the Nationals came back and ended up winning.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, and this is an Astros team too that they had Garrett Cole, they had Justin Verlander, and they're
Yeah.
out of the picture, but they're still in the World Series.
Yeah, that's what's insane is that the Astros were cheating in 19 at home, and the Nats beat them in Houston.
Yeah. I mean that Nats team was a team of destiny. Also, I want to talk about in this game because we're just about to start. Former Cub Jorge Soler will be the first batter in this World Series.
Yeah, it's fun to root for guys like Soler and Jock and some of these former Cubs, and of course again, oh, and don't forget Maldonado on the Astros too, former Cub.
Former Cub legend, I'm pretty sure the only notable game he played as a Cub was when Kyle Schwarber, because I have a picture of this. Kyle Schwarber hit that walk-off home run that Mai Tai guy reached over the kid's glove and took away from, and
Yeah.
Martin Maldonado that week was on that team. So that was the photographic evidence that Martin Maldonado was indeed a Chicago Cub at one point.
Exactly. And hold on one sec. Yeah, it would be cool to see. Are you ready for like a 7-game series or?
I want to see a long series. I mean, I feel like a 4 or 5 game series wouldn't be any fun. And
Mhm.
here's the other thing we got to think about too is that this could be the last we see of a while and Jorge Soler just led the game off with a bomb.
Man,
Wow.
like a second delay.
You're a little behind. You're a little behind because I could see it on your screen. But Jorge Soler just hit a home run, and that's awesome. Former Cub right there. I love it. But going back to what I was
Yeah.
saying, this CBA negotiation I think is going to get ugly,
Mhm.
and it sounds like from so many people in the game they expect a lockout. They don't see anything being resolved soon. So who knows if we're going to see baseball on time again next year? You might as well get the most out of baseball while you can now.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a good point. Hopefully, there's not a lengthy lockout. Do you think there will be definitely some kind of lockout?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't sound good. From what I'm hearing, it doesn't sound good. I mean, the thing is that from what it sounds like, I'm no insider expert, but what they're making it sound like is that the negotiations aren't anywhere close,
Mhm.
and that's not a good sign. And the CBA is up in a little over a month. It expires like the first week of December. I think December 1st or 2nd at 11:59 Eastern time or whatever time it is, but it's
Right.
coming up and they got a lot. I mean, you remember how painful it was to get baseball back in 2020 with the COVID
Yeah.
season?
Yep.
I mean,
Right.
imagine having to negotiate an entire new CBA. And there's already tension between the players union and the owners. I just I pray that it's as quick as possible. I just don't know how quick it's going to be.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully it is quick and yeah, it's a good point. I've been thinking about it a little bit. I haven't been thinking about it too much, but yeah, the lockout is definitely a possibility. So hopefully, Manfred and Players Association can come to some kind of agreement, but it's hard to say.
Yeah, and speaking from a Cubs fan perspective, having a lockout would be so awful for this franchise because you are in a position where most of the most valuable assets you have are in your farm system now.
Hmm.
And we already saw a number of prospects, whether they were acquired this year at the deadline or they were in the system over the past year or so, the COVID season happened and there was no minor league year that year. So you had guys like Ed Howard not play competitive ball, since like his junior year or whatever it was, because he was drafted out of high school. And
Yeah.
you had other prospects, not play a season in 2020, and that stunts, your growth. Then you have to come back the next season and get back into things, and your prospects are a whole other year older. And the goal with most of these prospects in the Cubs farm system is, because they're so young, because they're so raw, is that you want to take the time to develop those guys the way you want to. And having a significant time of them not developing the way they normally would, you don't want that to do any long-term damage. I'm sure some of those guys would find a way to play in some capacity, but it's not the same as having a regular minor league season and, keep being promoted to different levels and facing different levels of competition.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess too, though, it would be even worse if the Cubs were really, really, really good still, and then this stunted their, so. But yeah, I just hope for the sake of the sport and the players and everybody that it's going to be back. If not normal opening day, then soon after. But there has actually been a bit of labor peace with baseball for quite some time now. I mean, we haven't had obviously a strike since '94, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Hockey's had their share over the last, decade,
3 since 95,
which is
including a
insane.
full season that was
That
wiped
that's
out.
that's crazy. I mean, I still think about it all the time, just when I'm thinking back of all the champions, and it's like, oh yeah, forget the 04-05
05,
season.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's crazy to think like they had a whole season of no hockey. It's insane. And now it's
Yeah,
back on ESPN because that was the last year before the lockout. So
that's right. Yeah, because the last Stanley Cup final in 04 before that lockout was on ABC. So you had games on ABC and ESPN. And then when they came back, they switched over to NBC. And now you're back on ESPN.
exactly. So have you been watching much hockey with ESPN Plus and Turner?
I haven't caught a lot of the national broadcasts yet on ESPN, just the local broadcasts. So I can't say I have yet, but
Yeah.
I'm sure I will as the season goes on. The season is still very, very young.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's early, but I've been watching hockey. It's been great. I know the Blackhawks have a crap ton of stuff going on right now, on and
Yeah,
off, but
yeah, to say the least.
yeah, so
But
wasn't even gonna
AHL is
bring that
back in
up.
the market though. That's good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been fun though to watch some games and just see everything unfolding so far. Seattle, watching them a little bit. So
Hmm.
you've been to a game already, right?
Yeah, I won preseason and then the opener. And then I got to get back to our AHL teams games because
Mhm.
last year the AHL played, the Chicago Wolves AHL team here played. They're normally regularly broadcasted on television. They play at the Allstate Arena, but last year they weren't on TV because they played in an independent